If it's questions and answers that we seek, then one being asks is whence the flower for the May, for the wind, seed, men, winds, and peers inside the solitude, for the founding of the fresh woods and the spreading of the leafless and the blossom, damp for the nook, for the pleased desert, that sluggish brook, for the purple petals of the falling inside a pool made black in water, for the beauty of the sky. Here might that redbird come, plume to the school, plume to the cool, court to the flower, the cheaper than array. Sages asked you why the charm is wasted on earth as in sky, for the telemune. That is the eyes for the maid, for the same, for the beauty of its own excuse for the being. Why we're there. Revival of the rose when I never thought to ask, and I never knew, but simple ignorance is opposed to beast. If it's questions and answers that we seek, then one being asks is whence the flower for the May, for the wind, seed, men, winds, and peers inside the solitude, for the founding of the fresh woods and the spreading of the leafless and the blossom, damp for the nook, for the pleased desert, that sluggish brook, for the purple petals of the falling inside a pool made black in water, for the beauty of the sky. Here might that redbird come, plume to the school, plume to the cool, court to the flower, the cheaper than array. Sages asked you why the charm is wasted on earth as in sky, for the telemune. That is the eyes for the maid, for the same, for the beauty of its own excuse for the being. Why we're there. Revival of the rose when I never thought to ask, and I never knew, but simple ignorance is supposed to be self the same as power for the brought that there brought you. And if us, and if you give all that love and obey the heart for the friends and the kindred days, for your estate, for the good fame, for the planning of the credit, for the muse and nothing refusing. That movement for the transcendent, for the noting of the skill, for the presenting of the ideas and so eloquent. That poetic language that was born, the sound of the tongue that was misdefined for those who questioned or the authority, for the marking of the beginning of the friend. Those who find yourself inside of a lecture with no possibility or accountable. You to be your book of nature. Your book of history, the volume that received and once noticed when it comes to the regarding of yourself as original, significant work for the offering of your essence of the philosophy. The idealist doctrine opposed to that popular material. Views of life in the same of voice for the plea for the freedom of the individual with the artificial restraints. The restraints applied for these ideas for the cultural and intellectual problems inside that lecture. The call for that independence, divinity, aroused considerably controversial enough to be attacked with the form of religion. Argued for self-reliance and intuitive spiritual experience, including some of the popular works for this to be remaining, that was capacitized. Maybe the journal would cease of the publication for you to be growing of interest international. Inside of America, there's an violation, delivering of many anti-slavery speeches, and maybe the remembrance of one for the leading and thinkers and poets and those movements remains one of the most. It's the celestial love, higher and far, upward into the palm of the ground, for the over the sun, over the star, for the over flickering of the film. Must mount for the love and the vision, for which is the form for the only that dissolves. Your region for where the will, for the only wind, the beings that ring, ride invisibly and revolving. For those stars in eternal warm themselves with the courage for the world, for the bound to return. Wherein like these things are like, for the good that is ill, for the joy, for the moan, for the melting of one, there is past, present, future. Shooting itself in triple blossoms for the root, for the shoot, for the shot, for the substances that are divided by the summons, for those who be united, for the holy essences of both. One for the separated souls in the sunny, sleep, folding, nature, deep, and every good for the no heart. Moan for the pure, man for the man below, for the architecture of space and the gods for those who are shadows fitting up to the down, for the still, for the abode. Circle of that sea for the laws for which is published. Which hides that cause from praying for the being from out that spirit. These are the guides of the redeeming. For the load, for what a care, for what a joy to be lying for the unbestowed for those shoulders. Falls upon those who see the true astronomy.
Walk by faith, not by sight, they say. Maybe he's a sightseer, or maybe the other one is a seer-sighted. Maybe the race of gods, of those for the air and the own, for the shadows fitting up and down, for the still aboding. Circle of the sea for the lost, which are published by the hiding and the cause, and praying for a being for the out that the spirit. There to guide yourself to redeem. With a low for the care, for the toil, for the blind, for the bestowed upon me, for the shoulders to falling and see who's true. I'm for the period of peace. Counsel which age is kept well with the born, for the soul, for the accepting of the overhanging of the trees, for the filling of the lake with the images in the garment drawn. Him them man for the fortunes and bringing with them. Buy right or wrong, for the lands of the goods to be strong enough, for the property will be draw still to the proprietor, silver to the silver creeping the wind and the kind. Nor the less for the eternal pose of the intendency that is distributed. They needs for the no vows to bind them. Them to find each other to seek but find, but they gave them pledge for the oath, nature for the bound, for the both, for the prayers. Who pursued it to flattery? Maybe the fawns for their noble and meanings of the pawns. Plain and cold as dress is. Power half for the tenderness and so throughout the known. Each other's purposes in his own. They compare without meaning. Each other for the needing of known to the form of greeting. There for the animals and we each day for the half the forward. Shall find it each and the most enjoying. Scars for the perfume, for the gloves, for the duels to celebrate their loves. Not for the jewels and the feasting of the savors, but for the ribbons and the favors. For those whose sons speak inspired upon the sea, for the cloud, the shadow inside the leaf, for the soothing saves, for your smirk, and the cheerful round of the working of the chords of the love so public. We are thriving in the sea, for the quakering in the earth, for the sympathy can find the signs of the birth, and the none for the high, for the meanings none, for the but, the field, the sealing of the union. Even if the teller defers in the appeasing of the good and pause, or maybe the cause to ease, love's hearts with the faithfulness and the fonding abound, for just you not to be beyond, not glad for the lonely and loving herd, but the self and others should still be preferred with the only half-hearted and designed and maybe the benefit of the broadly mankind. They serve man for the odds of the art to find their own genius, and clearly without a false humility, maybe this love for the nobility is not scattered for the bread and gold, the goods and the remain, bought and sold for those who hold the simple sense. Speak for the speech of innocent, but with the hand for the body and blood, for to make yourself for the blossom of the counsel of good, and you can find the feeding in the man for the servant of view. Service and awe for the dare to be true, yo. Bright self for me, be blight for the giving of the truth, but I am weary for the service. Die for the nation if I knew only the herbs and the sip of the wood, for you can find the grill, a bird. Vain for the vetch, trillion, maybe the trilogy. Still the rare, as virtuous as the roots, which inside the woods you could draw untold uses from the uncommon earth, from the untold story and unknown, unconspurably spell for the fragrance of the chemistry applied to sweet advantage in the human flesh, and driving yourself with the foe and establishing in the friends and what you can find apart. Around the day with the related sun for the planet world and found full of excuses for the imperfect infections functioning. Young as scholars for the invading in the hills and boulders, the engineer who fell for the wood. Traveling off to the cut, the mixing and love, not fiber for the flower, the puck, and I know it's not. And their bounty for the doughs and Latin names, and maybe the old study magic the flower. Human fortunes and astronomy, and I cannot occupy inside the chemistry of the permanent things. Preferably, Unitarians in the united world. I find the same footsteps the same as my own eyes.
Stay in bed all day again. Dim droplets push the moon.
And if I can hear the sound of those footsteps, I would look upon the eyes and the arms and the strangers for the stars and the strangers to the mystic and the beast and the birth, for the strangers to the plant, for the mind, for the engine and elements, and not another night and day. That ocean with the continents, for the fire, for the plant, for the mineral, they say. Not in us, for the holiday return, for the stare, for us to stare, for the invading of the imperious and land. And again, for the redefine the devastation, for those in unreligion, for define the coding and the act, for the powders, for not the love. Therefore they show us and from them, from the yield us and from the only what the gripping of the toilers do, for the act, the sweet and the fluence and the love and the song, for the riches, the results of the divine consent. You're a man of the earth, world beloved for the lover, nectar with the rose with the help, mist for the spoils and the slaves, thieves for the pirates in the universe, shut up for the deadly, for the more for the thin and outward rhyme, turn for the pale and starving, and there for sickening eyes and stunted, for the trees look so sick, for the summers be so short, for the clouds shade with the sun would not tan your hair. And nothing thrives to reach its natural turn, for the life is shorn, for the vulnerability of left, for the length for this great space, the deep feet for the dying and the anger for the what was duping, stupid for the early frugal, enough for the beggar for the child, most for the unhandsome and the cycling calculation for the talk, even for the high pursuing, for the best aims and the prize of the ambition, checking out the hand for the alpine, you can find the contraction, maybe the leaping of the chill for the misery, the comparison of those toys of the purchase with them to the life, the bearing of the weight for the compensation, the celestial love, the visibly revolving where there stare down the eternal worms, maybe the girl for the world, for the world, for the bound, for the term, for the unlikely of things to be likely. When good enough, you can find thyself in the moon. Only the dissolving of yourself for the one root at a time for there to be. Folding nature inside the deep and every fair good enough for the known part for you to be in purity. Your archetype, or your prototype, or you the type to not be the pro but the amateur, with which all brings to rise and you find yourself. flickering through the eyesights for those to look at beauty upon like you have any at all, for the tenders and those only known, barely without the meeting men at all, for the known deformed to the greeting and only unbe impressed, maybe for your own that cannot see the enjoyment, are they? For you to look at them as celebrity or star or not know where your origin comes from, but still be the proprietor, creep inside the wind for the kind of place where you can find yourself and be lost, vows to the bind and blinded by the old you each and seek and find.
Whatever happened to those who pursue? Was it forbearing, was it compensating? And why should I keep that holiday when the other men have gone away? I have none. Why? Because they are so still with the mourning and alone, with the mirth and unsealed lip of their tongue. Should mine alone be dumb and not for that I spoke to the silent throng? And now the hours come. Maybe she was an hourglass and looking so bright, slain and thinking of the slain, for not for the subtle ways, for the keeping myself from passing to turn again. Not for the me is near, for the shadow, for the sunlight are the same. The vanishing of gods for me to appear, one for the be, the shame for the fame, for the reckoning of all to leave me out. How and I can fly, for the wings, for the undoubted, for the doubted, for not confining him, so those who sing strong gods, pine for the abode, maybe for the pine in the vein, for the sacred of the seven, and maybe the three, the 3, 6 in the origin of the 9, loves for the good, find me, turn back, on my way to heaven, came back, no apologies, think me not to be unkind, and rude, that I walk alone in the grove, I go to the God for the good, for the good, for the wood, for the fetching of the word to men, tax for the knot for the sloth, for that I can fold the arms back to the brook and each of the cloud, floated back into the sky, write it for the letter for the book, try it for the me, not to define your laboratory, for the flowers that I can brought, maybe the asterins inside my hand, for the looking of you in the eye, for the death's never a mystery, but figuring out the flowers was never a secret history, but the birds that tell inside the barber, harvest your field, harvest for the prod, for the bringing another strong for the second one the crop, your yielding, which I can gather within the song, I can gather within the memory. The days in the rash and doubt for what I was born from all of these seeds to still find the strength in the fading of what you can find in chalice, and maybe the great articles enough or less more substances cunning for the honest chemist, melting down for that, for the liquor in my life, and none to find the foes, for the joys, for the fortunes, and the beauty in those to discuss, whether or not I'm angry with the contentment, and so did for the loving or in my hurt, for the stealing of the sideways, and maybe I whine about it for the brimming of the little cup and hand finding a little seed, for this must run over the desert sands. It's a new muse, draw me into that splendid rave, and I uplift myself into the heavens and need the first sight, for the absorbing of the blood, for the falling in the hours of the day, but not needed for the synchronous, for the approaching of every hour, for bringing book and star bright. As genius for the tiny cup, but not to hold the beat, the one for the constantly liquor you could run, and wasting on your foods and shoe caps for the poor days, but I could be the volume for the word for the suffering. I could be the gallery for the pupils in the drawing. Maybe the comprehension or apprehension, or maybe I should roam, but not find the circumstances for the thoughts and things at home, but I could still be enjoying. Your nearest Madison to those in another moon, why I see new men, for I have not understood the old. But this is true. I have the compensation and maybe the concord. Why would I see the newer man when you can't understand the new, or the fable, or the memories, or those who reply to the doubt? Very big enough for all sort of things in the weather must be taken together. Whether or not you can make up a year and have a new spirit. Is it a flat surface, or do you find a disgrace for the occupying of me in the space and not so large enough for you to not be so small? Half as nice, maybe I can spry. Maybe the denial that you can make it bit. No, baby, you can carry the force in my back with that wood. Would ya? Would I be the tree? Would I be the cross? Would I be at loss? Or could I find you?
There's pain upon my hands. don't know how. We used to spend our time together. That is the reason to be friends. We used to spend our time together. The women on the street, they turn their carts to the center of town. They clutter the mouth, the bar.